So we have another coin that I won on Yahoo Auctions. This one went for surprisingly cheap. So I paid altogether 3,000 yen. So here we have another prefecture, and this time we have Saga Prefecture. So Saga Prefecture is down in Kyushu, so that's the southernmost of the big islands here in Japan. It has a population of about 809,000 people. One of the things that it's known for actually is the ceramics, and you can actually see, an example of their ceramics. Emira Aticha ware. So they're pretty well known for their ceramics. We can see some rice fields, not as inspiring as some of them. Now, for the character here, this is Okuma. Okuma, what was his first name? Shinitobu, I think. Shobu. So he was a politician in Japan. He was active in both the Meiji and the Taisho eras. He was born in 1838. Oh, fell right out. So he was born in 1838 to a wealthy samurai family. Now, what ended up happening, though, is that he was an advocate for a constitutional government. So he wanted to get rid of the feudal system in Japan. So you see here, Heisei 22. So that would be 2010. Like the other coins, silver coins in this program, the mintage was 100,000. So Okuma, he was a politician. He ended up getting in a bit of trouble with the Tokugawa shogunate, as was very common with these guys. And then after the Tokugawa shogunate was over, he was sort of invited to participate in the Meiji government. He held a few different positions. A lot of them were foreign affairs. He spoke English. He spoke Dutch. He had studied Dutch studies, which was basically foreign studies during the Tokugawa years, because for a long time, the Dutch were the only outsiders they had contact with. But he spoke English, he spoke Dutch. He was responsible for negotiating a lot of these treaties with Western powers. And some of them, the results were not very popular. Anyways, in 1898, he was called upon to form a government. He was prime minister for about 4 months before his government fell apart due to infighting. Then he retired. Earlier, he had founded Waseda University. What is now Waseda University. They didn't call it back then. And so he retired and basically stayed as president of his school. And that looked like the end of it for a while. And then during the Taisho era, there was another political crisis. There were lots of scandals in Japanese politics at this time, which destroyed governments. And Taisho the emperor ended up calling on him to form a government, which he did in 1914. So he was prime minister again. So he was the 8th and the 17th prime minister. This government is the government that entered Japan into World War I. Now, Okuma was also one of the architects and drafted the 21 demands to China. Yeah, that kind of backfired. For quick historical context, this was basically Japan trying to force China into being a protectorate of Japan. And Japan thought they would be able to do this because the Western powers were distracted by World War I, particularly their ally, the British. So they ended up delivering this to the Bullion government. This was the Republic of China. And they kind of actually outmaneuvered the Japanese by simply telling everybody what was in this list of secret demands, which ended up sparking massive outrage in China, ended up causing a boycott of Japanese products inside China. And from Japan's point of view, also created a problem because the British and the Americans, two of their allies, basically denounced this and it was the end of Japan, the Japanese-British alliance. It basically kind of killed it. It was the end of it. And so that ended up causing problems going forward because suddenly there was a lot of suspicion about the Japanese government. The UK and the American government both saw this as, kind of deceitful, trying to go behind their backs during World War I to, take control of China, basically. So what ends up happening is instead this 13-point agreement is agreed on that is basically, well, it didn't change anything. But Okuma tried to use it very much as a political tool, as a political card of like, yes, look at this list of agreements we got from China. But it was already things that China and Japan had agreed upon. So it was kind of empty. He ended up using that after he dissolved the lower diet to try to get his party to win lots of seats, which they did, but then caused another problem. It turns out that his political party, and they got exposed for this, was bribing members of the lower house of the diet to change their vote. They got exposed. Okuma avoided, basically he avoided jail time. One of his subordinates went to jail. They couldn't quite prove that he was involved, but his political career was over. He had massive infightings with the unelected parts of the imperial government, these elder statesmen and people in power around the emperor. And they never quite say what happened. Is they say he resigned. I think he was kind of told to resign, and that if he didn't resign, things were going to get very bad for him. I kind of suspect that happened with a lot of people who got caught up in these scandals, who resigned, is they weren't really offered. I mean, a lot of times when people resign, they're not really offered a choice. They're offered an out, and he took it. And so anyways, he went back to Waseda University, and he spent the rest of his life there, and he died in 1922. Besides politics, though, he was also a big proponent of traditional culture and traditional arts from Saga Prefecture. For example, the pottery. They make very, very colorful pottery. You can see this example here. It's really nice with the crane. The area is also known for weaving. It's a relatively small prefecture down in Kyushu. So it's pretty far from me. I've never been down there, but I'm really glad to have a coin from there. So I'm slowly getting more and more of the prefectures, and pretty much all of them are the prefectures people don't care as much about, so there's not as much demand for those 100,000. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. So if you could go down into the comment section, leave me a comment, tell me what you think about the coin or about the choice of who's on it. Maybe if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, give me a like, and I will see you in the next one.